Hello, hello. Welcome to Leap Taken. Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft-related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So today, I want to talk about the idea of deconstructing spirituality as you've known it from a Judeo-Christian, Muslim, I guess Jewish, Judeo-Christian, all of the big threes, whatever you're coming from. So I did a video not too long ago where I was talking about this and I gave some tips, but I want to explore one particular topic. I want to make this a series, so I'll come back. So if you have questions, let me know in the comments. But I saw something recently, and I'll give it credit to the person I saw. She goes by Dr. Vanessa. Saw it on Instagram. She did a little video where she was talking, not a little, but she did a video where she was talking about a question she gets asked a lot since she is no longer a Christian, which is, well, who do you worship? And what I want to get into, which ties into my next thing I'm going to talk about because they're bookends of the same thing. Well, how do you know what you're working with, the goddesses, the ancestors, the spirit, the fae? How do you know they're not just demons? How are you sure? So those are the questions. So when we're talking about deconstructing, once you're on the other side of it, you don't ask those questions because those questions are steeped in a belief that you would no longer have. So how I've handled it, my answering this to myself at the time, way back when, is I don't know. This is many years ago when I was getting more into just at that point, just being pagan. I wouldn't have said witch yet. I just would say I was getting into paganism. I did ask myself that, how do you know what this is? And the short answer is, I don't know. I don't know. But if that's the case, I came to the realization myself, well, if I don't know this, I don't know, even when I was supposedly a Christian, when things would happen and I felt like I was being communicated or a sign from God. How do I know that wasn't the devil? How do I know, especially if it was something that, I don't know, might have been something that was pleasurable, brought joy, or made me feel good, or like things tied around money and all that sort of, like money, a windfall, getting money. That's a blessing from God. How do you know it's not from Satan? Maybe he's luring you in. Maybe it was a trick. So I started, I'm joking, but seriously, I started thinking about that. Well, how did you know then? How did you know your prayers were answered? How do you know it wasn't a demon coming in there and screwing with your mind and, waiting to trick you? So once I kind of wrapped my mind around the idea of, well, you don't know at the time. Well, I kind of was just like, well, I didn't know then, and I still don't know now, but I'm just going to, I can only rely on something called my intuition, which I started to realize might have some value to it after all. My intuition might be leading me someplace that's not familiar and not very comfortable, but, I feel like it's the right place for me to go, even though I do feel uncomfortable about it because there's so many unknowns. So that's basically what happened. I started relying more on what not just felt right, because that's not enough. Intuitively, even though I was scared and I got spooked a lot of times in those days of learning things and having experiences, supernatural experiences, I was spooked. I did realize that, okay, you're not going to be okay. You're not going to feel completely cool with everything because you just don't know. I was uncomfortable because I just didn't know. It was all very new to me. But once I began to sort of remember being a kid in church and Everything's fine. Everybody walking to church. They got their outfits on. They smell good. The hat. Everybody's chill. They're listening to this person, whoever's speaking up at the front of the church. At some point, the music starts going and people start getting up, jumping around and falling out. Now, these people seem like reasonable, responsible adults from my perspective, literally within the last 30 minutes. And then something happened and now they're willing to fall onto the ground, whether somebody's there to catch them, like they just gonna fall out. So that was an experience. And I've seen that every time I went to church. It was never a time that didn't happen when I went to church, by the way. Somebody always does this. So my question I started asking myself is, okay, that didn't spook you. Well, it did a little bit as a kid, but as an adult, you were given an explanation, although you really don't know, because I didn't really fully comprehend, even based on the explanation I got, which was not great, on what was happening. We're filled with the Spirit. That was the short answer. So here we are, here I am, this adult, years later. I knew I was no longer Christian. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, that wasn't negative. That wasn't evil. They didn't say that was evil. So me getting these downloads can't possibly be evil, especially if it's true, especially if it's all coming together, especially if it's a warning. So I moved on from that, having these different experiences and realizing I witnessed people and their spiritual experience in a, safety of a church. So that was okay. Or the people who would walk up to me and say, God, God put this on my heart to tell you. The irony is that Spirit puts things in my head to tell you, but I don't necessarily tell you because I read the room. You being like people I know, or if I'm going out somewhere, like I don't walk up. I would feel like I'm being pushed. Like it would have to be almost physical that I do that. But I do not just walk up to people and just say, Spirit told me to tell you, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I come from I had stranger danger as a kid. I never forgot it. Anyway, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. So even with people I know, I test first. Are they able to receive this information? Sometimes I have to hold it. Maybe it's not a good time. They're having a really bad day. Not a great time for them to receive information if they've already got some stuff going on and I'm about to put something that's going to have them, having some sort of, I don't even get into, just having them think more into something else than they would prefer to. So that was how I basically started asking myself questions and start doing a comparison. Over time, once I got out of that phase and I came to the part, I guess, on my spiritual journey where I wasn't doing the comparing thing anymore, but I still had like residual spookiness, for lack of better words, around things with deities, around things with spirits and things like that. I was always a little bit afraid to actually be contacted and to have proof of anything. Like I say I would want proof, but I really was afraid if something was proven. So that went on for a while, but the way to get through that is to get through it. Keep going, journal, write things down. Find someone you can trust who is also spiritual. They may not be doing the exact same path as you, but if they are an occultist, if they call themselves a witch, Wiccan, hoodoo, just basically someone who kind of has a much more open mind and they, are hopefully past the point of indoctrination, so that you can have conversations a little bit more freely. Sometimes it's good just to bounce things off of people. It's not so much that they're telling you what to do or telling you if you're right or wrong. Hearing yourself say it out loud watching the response of someone not freak out or look at you like you have two heads or you need to be put in an institution, that could do a lot for the confidence. That could do a lot for you in your journey. And then once that happens, there's something that might just click for you. And then you're like, wait, I've heard myself say these words out loud. I've said it to someone else. They didn't freak out. Maybe I don't need to freak out. Maybe I'm okay. Maybe this just is. And then that allows you to start sort of internalizing some of the messages that you're getting, to interpret them a little bit better, because you're not, at the part where you're afraid or, you're kind of in fear the whole time. That's how it happened for me. Over time, things, come up. You have different hopefully experiences along your spiritual path. You come across others who teach you something else that you didn't know about, and you start to acquire knowledge. You feel confident in your practice. Hopefully you're practicing, your spirituality in a way that makes sense for you, and you're pretty consistent about it for the most part. Then someone walks up to you, maybe someone maybe as a family member you haven't seen in a while. We just had the holidays, and they know you're not Christian. They don't know everything, but they know that. And they ask you those questions I started this with. Everything's a demon. How do you know you're not talking to a demon? Who do you worship? Dr. Vanessa said this part. I worship myself. I worship myself. I'm a living, breathing goddess. Who else would I worship? Why is that so bizarre? Specifically for people who look like me. Well, I know why. But that's a question to start asking yourself. And don't just repeat something, that King James had something to do with. Don't do that. Dig deeper. Why is that such a radical idea? Why is that demonic? Why is that a sin to believe that you are the divine? The divine is within you. Through my acts of self-care, which when I talk about self-care, I share a lot of my planner updates and things like that and set up every Sunday. I have a goals planner. Self-care is on there. That's the goal, self-care. So I always want to be reaching that goal. Now, within the goal, I have habits and I have tasks like my skincare, outside, mindful meditation, working out. I branched all these things out, but it's really all just one thing. Spending time with the goddesses I work with, working with my ancestors, spending time at my altars, refreshing my altars. That's an act of self-care. It seems a little mundane, but there's the spiritual work in as well. When I do these things for myself, including a beauty altar, by the way, but when I do these things for myself, that is worshiping me. That is maintaining me. That is making myself feel good and, refreshed, rejuvenated. Those things are also a form of worship to me, inside and out. I work, you heard me say, I have ancestor altar. I work with more than one goddess. I think I'm up to 4. Let me think. 5. Oshun, Yamaye, Hathor, Hecate, Persephone. 5. 5. 4 altars. And, Hestia, okay, maybe 6. Don't worry about that. But anyway, out of the different goddesses that I work with at different points, through my life, there's not a worship thing happening. The relationship is not, it's to revere, to honor, to give offerings to. I did a Hecate Dipnon. Feast days, I celebrate. I'll even do a fast if I feel right, if it makes sense. I don't worship. That's the relationship. In the way things are set up, it's not supposed to be that way. At least that's been my experience working with deities. I'm not fearing. Fear doesn't equate respect. So I respect and revere my ancestors, which is not even a deity. My ancestors, that's a whole different situation where I respect my ancestors. Without them, there's no me. So it's everything to do with elevating and revering, not worship, not worship. Worship is different. Worship is spending a different type of energy. I use that on me. I give me glory. I give it up for me. It's all me. I'm making the decisions in my life, consequences or not. I'm being divinely guided most times, with my higher self being a part of divinity, meaning my higher consciousness, my intuition, I allow it to guide me. I'm human. Sometimes I misstep. Sometimes I ignore, thinking maybe I'm not ready to make a certain transition, or I'm not ready to do a certain thing, so I ignore the call, so to speak. And I've had to deal with the consequence of that, unfortunately. That's just the experience of evolving and growing as human, as the human experience. But not worship. It's not worship. So I just wanted to have a candid conversation about this, talk about it from my experience, and really sort of address the practical part of it. When I saw Dr. Vanessa address the question on who do you worship, she said herself. That's been my experience this whole time for years now. Myself. That's where I pour the energy into. I'm the one making the magic. They are coming to see me, Otis. Like, it's me. It's me. It's been me the whole time. I honor that. I revere that. I respect that. You should too. You should too. The best thing that ever happened to me was breaking free of that type of thinking. Being indoctrinated because people repeat cycles, unfortunately. And you can't be mad that people don't know. They only know what they know. But when you do know, you do better. And I'm doing better. So thank you for watching. I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken. Hopefully this little video was helpful to you. If you had those types of questions, and how does one get their mind out of that? Ask questions. Start asking yourself those tough questions. And don't be afraid to answer them, and be okay with, I don't know. I don't know. And just vibing until you do. Just vibe until you do. Of course, one more thing. The stage I'm at now, if you were to ask me, how do you know? There is not a demon. There's not a devil or Satan that you're communicating with when you talk to these spirits and such, your ancestors. My answer is, to quote Practical Magic, there's no devil in the craft. All right, thanks again for watching. All right, bye. Like, subscribe, share, check out leaptaken.com, hit the join button and join Leap Taken membership. All right, bye.